Okay, so if there's like for questions, I'll pause. But let me just go through some key points that I had in mind. So ठीक है. So I work for this corporate research group which also focused on publishing. So that was what was different about them. So ये generally it's not normal. Very few research groups in India and across the world which are product facing क्योंकि उनको पैसे कमाने होते हैं. They need to sell products for them to survive. These very few such companies have research groups. So some of the big names you may have heard like Microsoft, Facebook, Schneider Electric, GE Electric, इन सबके research groups होते हैं. And Fleur Daniel for mechanical and a couple of such organizations, but they're large organizations. They're not startups. And when I joined 2011, startup was also not like a big deal. मतलब it was just beginning to grow big. And I had to make a conscious decision whether to join a startup as a research engineer, which would have exposed me to some amount of research, or join some other company that I was placed from campus, वगैरह वगैरह. So I decided to take this bet, and it was like a great experience. I managed to publish academically. I mean, like in all these academic conferences. And then I took a year off. एक साल I just traveled the country. I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. I spent like 1 year with an organization in Bihar, and I was trying to understand how the government works. So yeah, then I applied for like a PhD in computer science at MIT, and now I'm finishing up my PhD. So I mean, the first, in fact, motivation for all this whole conversation is to simply understand why. I mean, why is a PhD even relevant, or why is research relevant? Even if not PhD as a degree, but the question is why is a career in research relevant? So let me just take you back 3, 4 years when you would have probably joined undergrad. तो टिपिकल ट्रेजेक्टरी जो दिखता है मुझे आजकल, एंड मेरे टाइम में भी यही था. ऐसे नहीं कि मैं कुछ 50 साल का बुढ़ा हूँ, मैं अब कह रहा हूँ कि मेरे टाइम में कुछ और था. तो मेरे टाइम और सबके टाइम में मतलब जनरली यही दिखता है कि ट्वेल्थ में आप लोग खूब रगड़ते हो. हम लोग एकदम रगड़ लेते हैं और मतलब वी रियली वांट टू एक्सेल इन लाइक science and math, and we get an appreciation for these skills. And फिर we decide कि चलो let us go ahead and do something about this. And then you join college. And if you've joined NIT Kurukshetra, I don't think the experience would have changed significantly from what it was in my time. But the first year can be very, very disappointing in terms of the quality of science and the quality of general like seriousness of like education. एंड देन आपको लगता है कि साला कहाँ पहुंच गया हूँ मैं. मतलब इतना सब कुछ मैथ साइंस करके केमिस्ट्री फिजिक्स फोड़ के मुझे लगा था कि मैं न्यूटन का चेला बनूंगा. आई डू लाइक बिग थिंग्स, एंड देन व्हाट रियली हैपेंस. एंड देन होता क्या है कि सेकेंड ईयर तक 90% लोगों में मतलब वॉट एवर जोश, इनिशियल जोश दे हैड फॉर साइंस, वो खत्म हो जाता है सब कुछ. एंड उसके बाद कॉलेज तो है ही. मतलब यू ऑफ कोर्स इट गिव्स यू अ डिसेंट अमाउंट ऑफ फ्रीडम. यू वुडंट हैव यू probably stayed away from home. So of course you'll find like a group of smart people. That is the advantage of being at a place like NIT. So you'll find smart, like-minded people who are equally disoriented, who are equally disillusioned by the whole process. And of course, matlab, then you have nowhere to sort of look to get some motivation and some figure things out. And tab tak, I mean, general interest. I mean, it's not your fault. It's not a student's fault at all. If an institution calls itself as an institute of national importance, and this is not just, I'm not bashing NIT Kurukshetra. I'm in general talking about the state of engineering and science in India, and it is very, very sad, unfortunately. So I can probably think of like 4 or 5 undergrad schools in India, undergrad colleges in India, which provide actual मतलब solid training for undergrads. मतलब जो मतलब undergrads को ensure, they will ensure कि undergrads are kept busy almost 24/7. रगड़ देते हैं उनको, जो कहते हैं ना. So yeah, and some people are writing it in the chat as well कि online classes makes it worse. तो the question is कि what happens after this? तो मान लीजिए आप फाइनल ईयर तक कुछ कुछ करके you manage to keep some motivation and कुछ एग्जाम्स 2 दिन पहले रट के उठ के लिख के you've passed it, you have a GPA of like whatever like 9 क्योंकि getting a GPA of 9 despite such a bad system is not too hard, or at least between 8 and 9 या जो भी हो. And then you are faced with a like a question कि what next. तो फाइनल ईयर में आपका जनरल attitude is I don't care मतलब for science I don't care, not for other things, I don't care for science and that love for science and engineering. So you'll say कि चलो next 5 years either you'll get a job from campus placement because that is what everyone wants to do, and if it I don't know what the average salary now is, whatever 6 7 8 lakhs 9 lakhs whatever is like a great salary, chalo let us start living. And then you come back to the same question क्योंकि unfortunately you have to live life, and unfortunately these questions will keep coming back to you saying what am I doing with my life. At some point कभी ना कभी तो आपको ये you need to confront this question. So either you do it now during undergrad or you do it after you've seen all this. आप मौज मस्ती कर लोगे आप, there's only so much मौज मस्ती you can do. And even if you're earning like a lakh or 2 lakh a month, there's only so much you can do. बाइक खरीद लिया, घूम लिया, ये कर लिया, वो कर लिया, क्या उसके बाद क्या करोगे आप? So at some point you have to answer these questions for yourself. तो होता क्या है टिपिकली, या तो आप स्विच करते हो हायर सैलरी के लिए, कुछ लोग एमबीए आईएएस वगैरह की तैयारी करना शुरू कर लेते हैं, या फिर ज्यादातर लोग मतलब 80 90% दे आर स्टिल कोस्टिंग अलोंग. मतलब ये जो आप एक पेपर बोट बना के किसी नाव मतलब ये बना के आप रिवर में छोड़ दो, तो इट इज द पेपर बोट इज नॉट रियली पुटिंग इन एनी एफर्ट. आई मीन फिजिक्स इज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ इट. सो यू आर ऑल्सो जस्ट राइडिंग द वेव ऑफ टाइम कि टाइम निकल रहा है. अच्छा, माँ बाप मतलब कह रहे हैं शादी कर लो, शादी कर लिया, ये हो गया वो हो गया, एंड यू जस्ट देयर इज सम टेम्पलेट that life has figured out, which is quote unquote safe and like secure, and you're just going ahead with it. So, what I want you folks to do, and what I would have done myself, and what I would recommend for myself and for you, is try to challenge this unwritten sort of path, or unwritten trajectory. So, there's nothing wrong, by the way. मतलब ऐसा हो सकता है कि at the end of 4 years, at the end of your undergrad, you do realize that कि you don't enjoy engineering. 12th में आपने कुछ ऐसा कुछ खास कुछ इंजीनियरिंग के बारे में कुछ पता पता नहीं था, मतलब ऐसे ही तुक्के में रैंक मतलब ज्यादा आया तो आपने सीएस लिया, कम आया तो कुछ और लिया. तो दिस वाज ऑल लाइक अ प्रीटी मच लाइक अ रूलेट, लाइक अ रैंडम पोकर वाला गेम. कुछ सम प्रोबेबिलिटी का खेल खेल है, and with some degree of probability you picked some thing, and it wasn't a well informed decision. Now the question is ki how long will you go with those kinds of decisions? How long do you want to live where you're just continuing to take these decisions without full information, without full knowledge, without full control? Now, that is the real question. And my suggestion, or like at least in my opinion, you can get away from this at a pretty early stage, at like your undergrad stage itself. Realize that this need not be my path. If I did get into the engineering with this idealism, so idealism jo hai, you don't have to lose it. If you got into engineering with the idealism कि कुछ साइंस में कुछ फोड़ाफड़ी करेंगे, नोबेल जीतेंगे, इंजीनियरिंग में कुछ मचा देंगे, you still can. It's not too late. I don't think you're ever too late. So as an example, right now I'm speaking to you as I'm 32 years or 33 years old. And that doesn't mean I'm wasting my life. I could be, in hindsight, I could be wasting my life. बट इट्स नॉट दैट बैड. आई मीन क्या करोगे मतलब 30 साल तक जो करना है कर लोगे आप लोग, पूरा पैसा कमाना ये वो सब, देन यू स्टिल हैव टू लिव फॉर नेक्स्ट 30 years ना, क्या करोगे? सो इट्स ओके. आई मीन यू डोंट हैव टू बी इन अ रश. Even if you take like a year or two to figure things out, it's perfectly fine. You're proved to yourself, you're proved to the society that you're smart. That's why you're at Kurukshetra. And now it's completely in your control. Like you can do whatever you want to do, and that's the larger message that I really want to push across. And as I mentioned, there's nothing wrong in each of these paths. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. But I want to especially talk to those, and this is especially directed to those who do believe that I don't want to do an MBA, I don't want to do an IAS या वगैरह, and I just don't want to keep hopping jobs to get more salary. ठीक है, वो तो मिल ही जाएगा. But what about the science? What about the engineering? What about the love for all these subjects that I started? उसके बारे में क्या कर सकते हैं? So if that is still a worrying thought, then probably this talk will make much more sense and we can probably talk more about it. And finally, होता क्या है कि ambition is such a uh, precious commodity कि if you don't, वो it's like a fire. I mean, chingari, if you allow it to go off, you need to find like all these different ways to again rekindle it, and it is not easy. मतलब वो don't let your ambition die because it's not easy to get back your ambition, and the youth and idealism is the best source for ambition, and make sure you possess it and you carefully nurture it. So this is the general gyan, like on like why am I even talking about like pursuing a career in research? Because I believe that most of you came into science, came into engineering because one, you were good at it. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब तुक्के में मतलब कुछ हो गया आपका. And two, probably in the process of studying all these subjects, physics, chemistry, maths, वगैरह, you enjoyed something. You really enjoyed the subject for its beauty. And the question is, why can't you continue doing that till at least for the next 10, 20 years? That's the real question. And if yes, how do you do it? चलो ये तो मतलब ज्ञान सुन सुन लिया आपने, आप एकदम जोश में आ गए कि अच्छा न्यू ईयर है. ओ आई फॉरगॉट टू विश यू ऑल न्यू ईयर, सो या हैप्पी न्यू ईयर टू ऑल ऑफ यू. सो न्यू ईयर है, पूरे जोश में, अच्छा ये कुछ सुना रहा है, ये अच्छा सुन लिया मैंने, अब व्हाट नेक्स्ट? नाउ दैट इज लाइक द इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन टू रियली आंसर. Josh is not enough. But the problem is like everybody has Josh, everybody has goals. What do you do with those goals? So that's the real question to answer. Question. So then, of course, the natural question is, करे तो करे क्या, बोले तो बोले क्या? I mean, this is like the obvious. मतलब ठीक है. You may have been sold by my story. मैंने अभी जो पिछले 10 मिनट जो सुनाया आपको कि मोटिवेशन, वाई रिसर्च, वाई लव फॉर साइंस वगैरह वगैरह, चलो ठीक है. अब काम की बात करते हैं कि हाउ, मतलब व्हाट डू आई डू अबाउट दिस? Because I'm already in, you can say that I'm already in my third year. I have already started ignoring my subjects like 2 years ago, and my GPA is like 6 or 7. What do I do? So first thing is, and this is I think something that I'll keep coming back to over and again, is stop complaining. आप मतलब you can come back to me and tell me कि अरे मैं मतलब खूब मैंने पढ़ाई की थी, there were like difficult circumstances in my life, IIT होना था पर हुआ नहीं. अगर मैं IIT में होता तो obviously I would have had a better education and more exposure to research. I will call bullshit on all of that. So ठीक है, मतलब आपके साथ जो हुआ हुआ, मतलब sure, I mean there's no point looking back. There's nothing that you can go, and you can't change time. If you can change time, go ahead and do it. उसके लिए मतलब you'll get some Nobel or something. But you can't really go back in time and do anything. So the thing you can do is, one, stop complaining, and two is probably change your attitude, saying, "Okay, let's figure this out." Fighter spirit, जो है, that will probably take you much longer than pure intelligence, pure whatever. Doesn't really matter. Change your attitude. Say, "I'll figure things out," and actually start figuring things out. So as of today, uh, this was very different in, let's say, 2000, 2007, 2008. जब मतलब I feel old in saying this when I don't consider myself very old, but YouTube also wasn't that big a deal. YouTube had just started. Khan Academy was the first set of videos that I had seen when I was in 2010, which had some educational content. MIT के ओपन कोर्स में, स्टैनफोर्ड के लेक्चर, ये सारे ऑनलाइन होना तब शुरू हुए थे. So this is 2009-10 की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. Today you have absolutely no problem with good quality content available online. Now the question is, what do you do and which content do you look at? That's the real set of tougher questions to figure out, and which I'll come to in a bit. So this is the whole spiel about why. So why is it worth pursuing research, and why is it worth spending some effort in understanding more about these topics? So any questions so far? Uh, Anyone has any how bad is it if you start this process 2 years late? Don't worry about it. Let me tell you about the what. कि मतलब ये what and how especially कि how do you start preparing or how do you even think about this process etc. वो मैं cool. अच्छा ठीक है. चलो. Uh, so let's try to understand what a PhD is. तो again मेरा ये जो पूरा जो सत्संग दे रहा हूँ मैं ये it may be directed towards a PhD, but take it in the same grain of salt कि this is a career in research. Think about the broader thing as a career in research, for which mostly a PhD may be required. Mostly. There are very few outliers, जैसे मैंने कहा था कि जो undergrads को ये जो aspiring minds में जब मैं था, we hired essentially undergrads. And there are very few research organizations which do academic style research, which also hire undergrads. And I've put that up on my webpage. So just to figure out like what other organizations may exist. But of course, do your own work. You need to figure things out for yourself. Do your own work. If you find out more information, let me also know. I will update that webpage so that others can also benefit from it. So let me just quickly answer and clarify what a PhD is and how you should be thinking about it. So PhD typically takes 5 to 7 years. So most people know about a PhD simply because of this time span कि 5 साल का साला कोई बैठ के पढ़ रहा है. And it's not as bad as you think it is. कि मतलब इतना भी it's not 5 साल में I know people who work for 5 years in a particular organization and they grow, they pick up new projects वगैरह वगैरह. And a PhD is very similar. I don't see anything different. It's just that you're trying to solve and like focus your energy and skills and effort in a very narrow area of science. So that is generally a trademark of like a PhD. And irrespective of whether in India या abroad, PhDs में होता क्या है कि you are paid a salary. तो आपको कुछ पे करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. तो अगर यूएस में हो तो somewhere between $2,000 $3,000 per month, and इंडिया में हो तो somewhere around 50 to 70,000 rupees a month, which is a decent amount, which I think not many people appreciate what there is to offer. But you're being paid this amount with the expectation of producing knowledge कि आप create कर रहे हो कुछ interesting innovation or like you're producing knowledge after having studied and consumed knowledge. So you're a knowledge producer of some sort. And in India mein as well as so the unfortunate thing about Indian PhD scene, not in the top, let's say 5 schools. My school and college, I just use this word synonymously, so don't get confused. School mane any school of education. So top 5 schools may probably this is not the scene in the top 5 schools, but any beyond the top 5, होता क्या है कि PhD is then seen as a source of income. क्योंकि unemployment rates in our country it is so high. People then say कि अच्छा मुझे मास्टर्स में कर लेता हूँ या पीएचडी में कर लेता हूँ. ये सारे टाइम वेस्टिंग टैक्टिक्स है ये कि मतलब पीएचडी करो ताकि आपको मतलब सैलरी तो मिल ही रहा है, मतलब 40-50,000 मिल रहा है, विच इज बेटर देन व्हाट मोस्ट जॉब्स कैन प्रोवाइड यू. अब बाहर आप अगर अप्लाई करने का सोच रहे हो, मान लीजिए आप hypothetically you're trying to apply to let's say MIT, some the big schools which are known for research, then this is how you're supposed to think about it. अब हो क्या रहा है कि आपका जो एजुकेशन जो है एट लेट्स से एमआईटी और लेट्स से एनी पिक एनी एक्सआईटी मान लीजिए वेयर यू आर गोइंग टू डू योर पीएचडी. लेट्स से इन द यूएस मान लीजिए कोई एक यूएस यूनिवर्सिटी है जहाँ पे आपने मतलब डिसाइड किया कि अच्छा जी मेरे को इस यूनिवर्सिटी में मतलब मुझे अपनी पीएचडी करनी है. सो व्हाट यू रियली नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड इज कि आपका खर्चा जो है यहाँ पे रहने का तो अलग, पर जो ट्यूशन एंड वॉट एवर यू नीड टू पे द इंस्टीट्यूट is somewhere in the range of 50,000 US dollars per year. So which is roughly around 40 lakh per year. And assuming you will do this for like 5-6 years, the total kharcha is 2 crore रुपए मोटा मोटी. ठीक है? Now this 2 crore rupees you are not paying out of your pocket because the PhD is a fully funded program. But what is interesting is somebody over here is actually going to pick this tab up. अब यहाँ पे ये सारे कॉलेजेस जो है मतलब these are not some डोनेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस नहीं है कि मतलब इनको कोई सोशल सर्विस नहीं करना, इनको ह्यूमैनिटेरियन सर्विस नहीं करना। ये सारे pretty much all these universities are corporate organizations जिनको हिसाब चाहिए कि भाई अगर मैं ये इस स्टूडेंट को ये डिग्री दे रहा हूं मैं, तो उसके अगेंस्ट आई नीड टू सी सम रेवेन्यू ऑफ लाइक लेट्स से 2 crores for 5 to 6 years. This is how colleges think. So who is that person who's going to pay 2 crore rupees for your 5 years of education? There has to be someone, right? And that is typically your advisor. जिसके साथ आप PhD करेंगे, they are the ones who will pay you 2 crore rupees or pay the college. आपको नहीं, मतलब directly आपको नहीं देंगे, पर they will pay the college 2 crore rupees. This is how the PhD works everywhere pretty much. In India, it is a different case because the government heavily subsidizes it. So ये your actual kharcha of education is underwritten by the government by if it is like a top school like IIT or IISc. So this is how a PhD works. अब सवाल ये है कि अगर आप आए अपने 4 साल ऑफ एजुकेशन कुरुक्षेत्र में करके एंड फिर आपने कुछ जीआरई जीमैट लिख के आप अपनी एप्लीकेशन अपनी पीएचडी एप्लीकेशन भर दिया वहां पे, मान लीजिए एमआईटी में, तो एज लेट्स से आई एम अ प्रोफेसर एट एमआईटी हु इज रीडिंग योर एप्लीकेशन. What have you done in those 4 years or 5 years which convinces me to pay 2 crore rupees for you for 5 years? अब मान लीजिए ये मतलब 40 lakhs per year is a good salary even by Indian industry standards, right? So 40 lakhs कौन देते हैं आजकल, मतलब probably Microsoft, Google, some probably one or two, three jobs. Imagine how competitive it is to get into Microsoft or Google. मतलब सबका नहीं होता, and जिनका होता है they are actually good. मतलब good money, they would have spent a decent amount of their time and life and effort in preparing for those kinds of interviews वगैरह वगैरह, and they'll actually be interested in software engineering hopefully. तो फिर जाके मतलब इतने सारे इंटरव्यूज 10 लोग इंटरव्यू करेंगे, जान निकाल देंगे, एंड फिर आपको ये ऑफर मिलेगा ऑफ 40 lakhs a year. It is equivalent. So why should a university pay you 40 lakhs a year and it is equivalent of giving you a salary if you have done nothing, or in the sense that if you have no research skills to show? Now, that is the question that you need to ask yourself and prepare yourself. So, for every question that you ask, जैसे chat में भी, let's say कुछ recently कुछ सवाल आए थे. Does a master degree help for pursuing a PhD? Answer this question. I mean, for any such question, your key question that you need to go back to is this particular question. कि master's degree मान लीजिए आपने कर लिया. Master's degree करने के बाद, do you have something to show in terms of skills? Do you have something to show in terms of original research saying कि देखो जी, given the master's degree, I have done XYZ research and this should show you that I have the potential to do actual serious research. And इसके basis पे please hire me. This is the case that you can provide. मतलब ये आप अपने statement of purpose में लिख के आप बता सकते हो कि हाँ जी मैं इंटरेस्टेड था, मैंने फाइट वाइट मारा, एंड देन आई फिगर्ड आउट लाइक दिस टॉपिक, आई डिड सम इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स, and this is some body of work that I have published which everyone in the scientific community thinks is good enough. This is evidence for me having done decent work with the limited constraints that I have. Now imagine what I'm going to do if I join MIT. This is the case that you will write in your statement of purpose. This is going to be a pitch. एंड ये पढ़ के एज अ प्रोफेसर मेरा भी दिल खुश हो जाएगा कि अच्छा लॉन्डे ने मतलब किया है काम, मतलब he has put some effort and he or she wants to do this, he or she understands what it takes to do actual research, so let us get them on, let us give, it is all a bet, essentially it is all a bet. 60 लाख या मतलब 2 करोड़ रुपए किसी पे मतलब खर्चना is not a simple thing, and it all comes down to knowing and believing that this person will succeed. And what is the obvious indicator of success? Having shown some past evidence for modest success. अगर वो हो तो then I'll be much more sort of reassured कि अच्छा ये बंदा he won't misuse the opportunity. So that is how you're supposed to think of it. Now, what is, and let me also quickly clarify how this is different from a master's, yeah, master's program which you may have seen many people do. तो ये भी सुना होगा आपने कि खूब सारे दोस्त होंगे जो एमएस जिन्होंने की है एंड फिर जॉब कहीं यूएस में कहीं कर रहे हैं, यूरोप में कहीं कर रहे हैं, दिस मास्टर्स एंड आपको यही लग रहा होगा कि साला ये क्या बोल रहा है, मतलब इतना तो कॉम्पिटिटिव है नहीं। इतने लफंडर से मेरे दोस्त थे, उन्होंने मतलब अपनी जेआरई लिखी और फिर अभी मास्टर्स कर रहे हैं यूएस में। ये क्या बोल रहा है, ये क्यों इतना बकबक कर रहा है? सो द difference is कि this master's program or MS program typically does not involve research. One, two, ये जो खर्चा जो है ये आप उठाओगे। सो दिस रफली अराउंड 20 lakhs 40 lakhs, जो मतलब आपका जो 1 year मास्टर्स या 2 year मास्टर्स जो होते हैं, दिस इज सपोज टू बी अ प्रोफेशनल डिग्री। तो द यूनिवर्सिटी के लिए दिस इज लाइक अ कैश अर्निंग मैकेनिज्म, क्योंकि पीएचडी सैलरीज तो उनको देना है ही। तो वो पैसा, हाउ विल दे इक्वेट दैट? मतलब सिंपल अकाउंटिंग्स वाला हिसाब है ये, कि पैसा मेरा अगर किसी एक स्टूडेंट पे जा रहा है तो कुछ तो मेरे पास सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू होना चाहिए ना। तो then in such cases they start off these master's programs where students go, pay the university 40 lakhs through their own pocket, and get a master's professional degree. Is this worth it? It's totally up to you. I don't have any experience in this, so I'm not like qualified to speak about it. But if you have realized that you want to, let's say, this is generally the route that students take who want to settle in a job, settle again, quote unquote, settle in a job outside the country. So this is generally the path to getting this happen. I mean, for making this happen. Uh, Naman is asking, do you have the opportunity to specialize into a very specific niche during an MS? Yes and no. Matlab, the kinds of courses that you will do will definitely be slightly more advanced than the undergraduate level kind of courses. बट जरूरी नहीं है कि आप बिल्कुल ही मतलब ऐसे एक स्पेशलाइज्ड निश, मतलब आप उसमें कुछ स्पेशलाइज कर पाओ। इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द मास्टर्स प्रोग्राम्स। आई हैव हर्ड मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग में खूब सारे स्पेशलाइज्ड मास्टर्स प्रोग्राम्स है यूरोप में। सीएस में भी कुछ कुछ है, डेटा साइंस जो फोकस करता है, एआई में जो फोकस करता है, वगैरह वगैरह। but need not be necessary. This is for you to do your homework and try to actually figure out ki is the master's program that you're applying to, does it really provide you like a breadth, or is there any scope for specialization? So this depends on the master's program. In the Indian context, wo main, I'll also come back to it. It's already 47. So chalo, let me walk you through the how. चलो आपको ये पता चल गया कि what is a career in research mean. आपको मैंने at least I hope I have conveyed to you a motivation for why you want to pursue research. So if you're still interested in science, there are ways to go about it. And now the critical question of how. करे तो करे क्या अभी, मतलब given current state. And there was another question in the chat, which was an important question कि after PhD life, after PhD life is troubling because many students move towards PhD and assistant professor vacancies are very less in comparison. Again, yes and no. तो आप ये मान के चलिए कि the PhD that you want to do and the education and the skills that you want to acquire don't compromise on quality. अगर आपको लग रहा है कि ये it is not good quality work that you're doing, stop it, quit it, try to find something else, move on. And hopefully at the end of the experience, let's say you have ended up doing decent research, decent work, then I don't think you should be worried about कि there are fewer assistant professor vacancies. खूब सारे vacancy, इतने सारे IITs आ रखे हैं, खूब सारा मतलब improve हो रहा है situation, ऐसा नहीं कि improve नहीं हो रहा. But all these places want quality. What we are lacking as a society, as a scientific community, is quality, high quality work. So if you are confident that you have done a PhD with some decent quality work, then you should not be afraid and you should not be asking these questions saying कि अरे वैकेंसी कम है, क्या करूं मैं, पीएचडी करूं ही ना। अरे पीएचडी आप वैकेंसी सोच के मत कीजिए, आप पीएचडी पीएचडी करने के लिए आप कीजिए आप। एंड थिंक ऑफ इट एज एन एक्सरसाइज इन साइंस वेयर यू आर डूइंग हाई क्वालिटी वर्क। एंड आई डेफिनेटली डोंट थिंक इतनी भी कमी नहीं है कि आपको कोई मतलब वैकेंसी वैकेंसीज है नहीं या ऐसा कुछ सिचुएशन है नहीं। इट्स जस्ट दैट यू नीड टू डू सम क्वालिटी वर्क। एंड इन द वर्स्ट केस, एब्सोल्यूट वर्स्ट केस, मतलब मैं बिल्कुल ऐसा वर्स्ट केस आपको मतलब बता रहा हूँ जो which is very unlikely to happen. In the worst case, आपने PhD कर ली, you will still be able to do a job which a undergrad would have been able to do, correct? And you most likely will be able to get a salary which is commensurate with 4-5 years of experience. तो आपने 5 साल बिताया ना अपने PhD करने में, तो आप खुद मतलब वो एक्सट्रैपुलेशन कर लीजिए कि what would your salary have been had you continued to work for 5 years from where you started off. And I'm pretty sure you will find jobs which will match that salary, that 5 year point salary, and which will actually make use of some skills that you have learned during your PhD. So it's fine. Don't be fear. Please don't be very afraid, especially. I know it is very privileged of me to say कि don't be afraid of these things वगैरह. All these उसमें caveat ये है कि you are fairly secure financially. Fairly secure मतलब you are okay to risk 5 years of your life. You're okay with this idea कि worst case में मुझे ऐसा job करना पड़ेगा which would have probably I could have done without a PhD. These are your absolute worst cases in life. If you're comfortable with that, अगर नहीं है माँ बाबू जी मतलब बिल्कुल मतलब बीमार है वगैरह, you have all these financial constraints on your shoulders, then probably it doesn't make sense. Then probably even I wouldn't do what I'm doing right now. But because I don't have such constraints, and hopefully if you don't have such constraints, then you should definitely feel confident to take these steps. Nothing to stop you from doing it. So, what is meaningful work that advisors look for? Let me come back to that. How can we grow our skills, or as you said, evidence of success? Great question. So that is the how that I'm going to talk about now. Uh, okay, all right. So plan ahead. Given where you are, यहाँ पे you can think of two paths ahead. One is what can you do now during undergrad, and what can you do after undergrad. ठीक है? And the caveat, the disclaimer इससे पहले जो म्यूचुअल फंड्स वाली जो ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट वो सब जो ज्ञान जो होता है, the disclaimer in this is कि ये सब it will require you to work very hard. Unfortunately, all the interesting things in life, sadly, you have to work very hard to achieve it. मतलब उसमें और कोई there is no other shortcut, there is no other way out of it. And if you believe you are working hard, please take it for granted that there are at least X number of people working as hard as you who want that particular goal much more than you. So if you really want it, you really need to work your ass off. And unfortunately, there is no other alternate or substitute to it. At least I don't. If you know, let me know so that I can also benefit from it. So, having said that, during undergrad, क्या कर सकते हैं हम? तो आइडियल ट्रेजेक्ट्री इज कि 12th में ठीक है आपने फिगर आउट कर लिया आई लव साइंसेस. फर्स्ट ईयर सेकेंड ईयर में फर्स्ट ईयर तो चलो मतलब मैथ फर्स्ट ईयर मैथ 1 2 3 जो भी मैथ सिलेबस जो है. The interesting thing about NIT Kurukshetra is the syllabus is great, the textbooks are great. There is no doubt about the quality of either of these. जिन्होंने भी syllabus बनाया, जिन्होंने भी textbooks recommend किए, they know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, the gap is in की general teaching, general sort of seriousness towards education वगैरह वगैरह. ठीक है, हो गया, stop complaining. Now figure out what your core courses are. अब हो सकता है कि 10 courses में आपको कुछ 50% courses में interest ना हो, that which is perfectly fine. But there would be certain some courses जो थोड़ा पढ़ के आपको लगा हो कि अरे ये तो इंटरेस्टिंग है, ये मतलब कुछ तो है इसमें बात. But you may not be provided. Why very few people India many does this mean PhD in India is not worth it? Let me come to those things. I'll get to it after this section probably. So the core courses आप ध्यान रखना, इस पे नजर रखिए आप. Math 1 2 3 no compromises. If you're in engineering and if you want to do anything science related, engineering related, your math skills will save your ass essentially. There is no other substitute for knowing math, because math is the language with which you will express ideas for most of the sciences, for most of the engineering disciplines. And assuming कि आप JEE types exam लिख के आए हो, math is something that probably you need to be very comfortable in. You need not be excellent at it. You need not to be great at it. I don't think I personally am good at like great at math, but I'm decent at it, and I can work myself off in trying to understand something. So what you really need to focus on is exposure to research by your third or fourth year and core courses. ध्यान रखो उन core courses पे. एंड द क्वेश्चन इज कि आप आके ये बता सकते हो कि ये टीचिंग इतना ज्यादा वाहियात है, कैसे मैं हाउ डू आई इवन बिल्ड अप द मोटिवेशन टू गेट सम अप्रिसिएशन फॉर द कोर कोर्सेज. फिगर इट आउट. आई थिंक यू हैव एनफ रिसोर्सेज टू फिगर आउट. गो ahead and figure it out, but know that you are learning it from a particular perspective. ये नहीं कि आप नॉवेल्स जैसे आप पढ़ रहे हो वैसे आप टेक्स्ट बुक पढ़ के कुछ नहीं होने वाला. जो आपने रगड़ाई ट्वेल्थ में किया था वही उसी टाइप का रगड़ाई आपको यहाँ पे भी करना होगा. यू हैव टू गेट के पेपर्स लीजिए, सॉल्व कीजिए, फिगर आउट हाउ मच यू रियली अंडरस्टैंड दीज सब्जेक्ट्स बाय सॉल्विंग हार्ड क्वेश्चंस. By only by doing will you figure out like how much you really understand. And hopefully you also get opportunities to explore research in the side, in parallel, on the side. तो इसके क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, कैसे करें, वगैरह वगैरह. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट इट. एंड आपको मैंने एक प्री टॉक सर्वे एक छोटा सा एक भेजा था. इफ यू हैवंट फिल्ड इट अप, गो अहेड एंड फिल इट अप इवन आफ्टर द टॉक. देयर इज नथिंग, आई मीन दिस विल जस्ट अलाउ यू टू आंसर एंड डू अ स्लाइट रियलिटी चेक कि आप कितना जानते हो, कितना नहीं जानते हो, वगैरह वगैरह. And most of you responded with things like these, saying eventually they want to become a professor at IISc या फिर they want to do a robotics PhD from MIT, etc. etc. Now this goes back to my initial ज्ञान कि ठीक है, मतलब आपको ये सब एस्पिरेशंस है आपके दिमाग में, आपको ये सब करना है, बट यू नीड टू हैव कॉन्क्रीट स्किल्स. एंड वो कॉन्क्रीट स्किल्स, माय रिकमेंडेशन इज, हाँ ऑफ कोर्स, आई मीन दिस इज लाइक अ वर्डी स्लाइड, बट ये जो टॉपिक्स जो है एडवांस कैलकुलस, इंट्रो टू ऑप्टिमाइजेशन, डिस्क्रीट मैथ, एडवांस लीनियर अलजेब्रा, दीज आर नॉन नेगोशिएबल. प्लीज, मतलब होगा, मतलब एकदम बोरिंग सा होगा, बोरिंग तरीके से सिखाया जा रहा होगा, but these subjects are actually interesting. If you enjoyed math in your 12th standard, you will probably enjoy this much more. It's just that you have to find the right resources. YouTube पे खूब सारे अच्छे अच्छे high quality lectures है जो आप पढ़िए, देखिए and do those problem sets. What is important is कि मैं हमेशा resumes में देखते रहता हूँ कि कोर्सेरा से मशीन लर्निंग का कोर्स किया, कोई किसी और से कुछ और किया. They are all useless as long as you do not do the problem sets. Assignments कीजिए, projects कीजिए, and that is when real learning happens. And if some senior comes and tells you कि अरे GPA VPA कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ये सब बेकार है, that is also incorrect. And let me tell you why. तो सवाल आपके दिमाग में ये होगा कि एग्जाम्स, ऐसे एग्जाम्स एकदम खतरनाक से एग्जाम्स आते हैं जहाँ पे रट रट के मुझे सवाल लिखने, मतलब जवाब देने पड़ते हैं. What is that really testing? It's not testing my ability to understand this topic. Fair enough. एंड जो मतलब रट सकता है उसको मतलब 10 जीपीए मिलेगा, जो नहीं रट सकता उसको नहीं 10 जीपीए मिलेगा. लेट अस से दैट इज वन आर्ग्यूमेंट theoretically. Now the problem with that argument is all that doesn't matter. What matters is if you're applying to an institute or a global organization or like a academic institution of global quality, which is including IISc, IIT, any of these good schools, they will ask you, they need some evidence. क्योंकि go back to the argument of 2 करोड़ for your lifetime, 2 करोड़ for 5 साल. 2 करोड़ क्यों दे भाई? मतलब अगर आपके ये कंप्लेंट्स है कि मैं, आप कौन से मतलब ये बॉन्ड मटेरियल हो कि मतलब कह रहा हो कि अच्छा नहीं 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 मेरे को मन नहीं कर रहा, ये एग्जाम मेरे लायक है नहीं, एंड मुझे पता है कि ये एग्जाम ये टेस्ट नहीं कर रहा, तो आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन इट, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू बॉदर अबाउट इट. ये चौड़ अनफॉर्चुनेटली नहीं चलेगा. So the institute that is trying to hire you, या professor who is trying to hire you, is desperately looking for evidence. क्योंकि उनको कुरुक्षेत्र के बारे में नहीं पता. कुरुक्षेत्र is just a dot on a map which is not popular, जिसके professors are not involved in high tech research. It's pretty much like an unknown college. तो अगर ऐसे बैकग्राउंड से कोई अगर स्टूडेंट आ रहा हो वर्सेस सम अदर कॉलेज, मान लीजिए फॉर कॉन्वर्जेशन से एक आईटी दिल्ली मान लीजिए एज एन एग्जांपल, where the quality of undergrad education is much higher. There is no doubt about it. In let's say computer science, क्योंकि मैं computer science का हूँ, I understand computer science. I don't know any other field. But let us say theoretically, in computer science, I see two applications, one from NIT Kurukshetra, one from IT Delhi. एंड आई सी कि अच्छा ये आईटी दिल्ली के लड़के ने फाइट मारा है, कोर्स प्रोजेक्ट किए हैं, असाइनमेंट्स किए हैं, ही इज गॉट अ डिसेंट ग्रेड इन लाइक सीरियस सब्जेक्ट्स, एंड कुरुक्षेत्र वाला अपने स्टेटमेंट में लिख रहा है कि नहीं, मैंने ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम्स और डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड सिस्टम्स में मेरा सी ग्रेड इसलिए आया क्योंकि टीचर एकदम वाहियात थे और एग्जाम एकदम रट्टू टाइप का एग्जाम था. विल नॉट वर्क अनफॉर्चुनेटली. आप खुद मतलब पुट योर सेल्फ इन दैट प्रोफेसर्स शूज. व्हाई वुड आई पिक यू? नाउ ये कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि 10 जीपीए हो तब मतलब it is favorable. That is also not a guarantee. This may be a necessary condition for you to do academically well. This just shows कि you have some inclination, interest in being academically oriented. Now, what is a sufficient condition? Sufficient condition is कि 10 जीपीए आए उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. What is a sufficient condition for research? क्योंकि आपको 5 साल रिसर्च करने हैं. What is evidence for research is by doing research. As simple as that. इसमें logic, there is no other logic. And how do you get started with research? अब प्रॉब्लम इसमें ये है, टू गेट स्टार्टेड विथ रिसर्च हर कोई एक्सपेक्ट करेगा कि कुछ ना कुछ रिसर्च एक्सपीरियंस हो आप में. अगर इफ आई एम अ फैकल्टी एट लेट्स से आईआईटी दिल्ली एंड मेरा एक रिसर्च ग्रुप है एंड आई मे बी ओके एंड आई मे बी एबल टू हायर लेट्स से इंटर्न्स, समर इंटर्न्स, मान लीजिए थर्ड ईयर के बच्चे या फोर्थ ईयर के बच्चे, देन आई वांट सम एक्सपोजर. मतलब बिल्कुल कच्चे केले नहीं चाहिए मुझे. I want some exposure कि इनमें कुछ तो हो. But that's again like a vicious loop. It's like a self vicious loop क्योंकि आपको रिसर्च एक्सपीरियंस है नहीं. आप चाहते हो कि ऐसे ग्रुप में काम करके आपको कुछ रिसर्च एक्सपीरियंस मिले, पर वो उस ग्रुप में घुसने के लिए आपको इंटर्न कुछ एक्सपीरियंस दिखाना पड़ेगा. अब वेयर डू आई स्टार्ट? दैट्स द नेचुरल क्वेश्चन, द नेचुरल ट्रैप टू फॉल इनटू. एंड इसके लिए द आंसर इज प्रीटी सिंपल. द आंसर इज सिंपल, द पाथ इज मच 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 हार्डर. The answer is simple. First you find out who is working. कौन है कौन ये शख्स जो मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग काम कर रहे हैं, जो आप चाहते हो, आपको लगता है कि अच्छा हाँ, अगर मैं इनके साथ काम करूंगा तो then probably I will get to work on good problems. Who are these individuals and what kind of research are they doing? Where are they publishing their work? First you need to be equipped to answer these questions for yourself, right? So these individuals, by the way, can be at NIT Kurukshetra itself. There are very good faculty at our own college. It's just that they may not be very active in research, but they're very good faculty. They know. उन्होंने अपने मतलब 5 साल पहले 10 साल पहले कभी रिसर्च किया होगा ठीक ठाक अच्छा. एंड अभी वॉट एवर फैकल्टी दे बिकम स्टेल इन द रिसर्च एक्टिव रिसर्च एजेंडा. दैट्स फाइन. बट दे नो क्वालिटी. दे नो हाउ टू अप्रिशिएट क्वालिटी. एंड ऐसे फैकल्टी आपके डिपार्टमेंट में भी होंगे. ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब कोई नहीं होगा. Find them, talk to them, see how supportive they are. If they are not supportive, then what do? Go back to slide 2. Stop complaining. ठीक है, नहीं है तो नहीं है. Let's move on. Go to other faculty pages, IIT Delhi, Triple IT Delhi, आसपास के जितने अशोका यूनिवर्सिटी. See, and generally a rule of thumb is see where these faculty have done their PhD from. What kind of papers they are publishing, how frequently are they publishing. That will give you a sense for how active they are. And it is your responsibility to find out what are the best publication venues in your field. तो मैंने ये सवाल अपने वो इसमें पूछा था, मेरे प्री टॉक जो सर्वे जो था, एंड उसमें लोग, ज्यादातर लोग, या तो साइंस डायरेक्ट उन्होंने लिखा है, आई ट्रिपल ई, स्प्रिंगर, एसीएम, एल्सीवियर, ये सारे जो है पब्लिकेशन के नाम, ये सारे पब्लिशर्स के नाम है. These are not the names of the actual journal या conference where things get published. These are, ये publishing industry is like a different beast जो मैं आज के मतलब इस वाले टॉक में नहीं बात करूंगा. But all these are, Elsevier is someone who controls and is a publisher who publishes research. Elsevier के नीचे मतलब there would be 50,000 types of journals के नाम, such as journal in information theory, journal for something else, वगैरह वगैरह. The sad reality is 99% of these publications are fraud, downright fraud. They are bullshit, they are fraud, they are useless. तो अगर आप अपने सीवी में ये दिखाते हो कि मैंने आई ट्रिपल ई फलाना फलाना में अपने पेपर पब्लिश किए, दैट विल, एंड इफ यू सबमिट दिस टू मी एज एन एप्लीकेंट, मैं वो पढ़ के आई विल फॉर्म अ नेगेटिव ओपिनियन ऑन यू। इस बंदे को ये नहीं पता कि व्हाट इज गुड रिसर्च वर्सेस बैड रिसर्च, इसको ये नहीं पता व्हाट इज अ गुड वेन्यू फ्रॉम अ बैड वेन्यू, एंड ये मतलब काफी खुश है ऐसे लो क्वालिटी वेन्यू में पब्लिश करके। सो ही डजंट नो व्हाट ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, और शी डजंट नो व्हाट शी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, एंड उस हिसाब से आई विल गो ahead and penalize in my mind this kind of a response. So be careful. Matlab, most of the publishers out there are fraud. They will expect you to pay a lot of money. कोई scientific review नहीं होगा, कोई high quality feedback आपको नहीं मिलेगा। अगर ये situation है, तो इसका मतलब this is a useless publication. कोई फायदा नहीं है वहां publish करके। It's as simple as that. Says, can you name some good, I imagine, publishers or publication venues? Find out. You have the internet at your disposal. You can find out. It's a lot of work. I don't know what your field is. I know things in computer science, so it may not be relevant to you, वगैरह वगैरह. So you can always find out the best faculty on earth. मतलब देखो बहुत simple strategy ये है, find out the best faculty on earth. अब वो कैसे figure out करोगे? ऐसे काफी अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट में जाओ, कहीं प्रिंसटन, सीएमयू, एमआईटी वगैरह वगैरह, बर्कली, उसमें आप फैकल्टी में उनके पब्लिकेशंस देखो कहाँ ये लोग छाप रहे हैं अपने काम. So that will automatically give you a sense for venue, because these top quality people are uncompromising in where they will publish their work. Once you get the name of the venue, then you have to do a reverse search कि इंडिया में कौन कर रहा है इस पर्टिकुलर वेन्यू में, एंड फिर आप फिगर आउट करेंगे कि अच्छा कौन है ये फैकल्टी, क्या है वगैरह वगैरह, एंड देन यू गो ट्राई टू टॉक टू देम. सो दिस इज द वे टू गो अबाउट इट. ठीक है. So this is exactly what I described right now. And these are two people, one at IIT Delhi, one at IIT Bombay, who are at the top of their field globally. And ये उनके publications है, you figure out from the publication वगैरह क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना है. And I'll share these slides as well. It is on my webpage actually. So now the question is, कौन से है ये summer internships? So the question you may ask is, what are these summer internships या scholarships जहाँ पे जो which you can apply to? And this is a legitimate question which we discussed, saying कि आप बीटेक में आप अपने थर्ड ईयर में हो, फोर्थ ईयर में हो, या सेकंड ईयर में हो, and you want to spend some time with these kinds of groups. How do you figure out? मेहनत है, figure out कर लीजिए. I think you are all smart enough and tech savvy enough to figure these things out. I have also provided this on this particular web link. I have also provided things that I know of. Agar if you guys know more, let me also know. I'll update that webpage. But yeah, just make sure to go through those resources and see if you find that helpful. And the real trick is acquire concrete skills. Everybody wants to see some skills. हवा में बातें करने में कोई फायदा नहीं है. अगर आप ये कहोगे कि हाँ मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ, मैं क्वांटम इंफॉर्मेशन में कुछ करना चाहता हूँ, अरे भाई पूरी दुनिया करना चाहती है ये. So it makes no difference. Show me some skills. अगर आपने MATLAB, and usually at the undergrad level, at let's say third year, fourth year level, आप जिस प्रोजेक्ट में आपको मतलब डाला जाएगा, यू विल बी वर्किंग एज अ रिसर्च असिस्टेंट. आपका एक काफी छोटा सा रोल होगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उसमें, कोई मतलब आपको शर्मिंदा होने वाली बात नहीं है ये. छोटे से छोटे रोल में आप काफी कुछ सीख सकते हो, एंड दैट छोटा रोल विल usually comprise of writing some code या doing some analysis वगैरह वगैरह, for which you will need to know some tools. तो इट इज इन योर इंटरेस्ट. जो मैंने वो विशियस साइकिल जो कहा था कि अगर आपको रिसर्च एक्सपोजर चाहिए पर आपको किसी ग्रुप में घुसना है एज एन आरए, एंड वो भी यही मांगते हैं कि अच्छा कुछ तो एक्सपोजर दिखाओ. दिस इज द एक्सपोजर यू कैन शो. You can show that you have done one or two small projects in MATLAB, one or two small projects in some civil engineering का जो भी tool है, earthquake analysis में वगैरह वगैरह, so that you know this tool. आपको कोई बैठ के वहाँ इतना कोई किसी के पास टाइम और ये रिसोर्सेज नहीं है कि बैठ के आपको ये सब सिखाए. तो show some evidence, show कि you have done some homework from your side, and automatically that will put you a cut above 99% of the applicants, unfortunately. अनफॉर्चुनेटली सिचुएशन अभी ऐसा है कि इतने मिसगाइडेड एंड अनइन्फॉर्म्ड है अंडरग्रेड लेवल पे कि इनको नहीं पता क्या करना है. एंड मैं भी था. मैंने जो ईमेल्स लिखे, इतने वाहियात से ईमेल लिखे थे मैंने थर्ड ईयर फोर्थ ईयर. अभी मैं अपने ईमेल्स अगर मैं पढूं तो इट वाज रियली पैथेटिक. एब्सोल्युटली नो इन्फॉर्मेशन, लंबे लंबे मैं ईमेल्स लिख रहा हूँ कि अच्छा जी मैंने ये किया है, मैंने ये किया है, मैंने किसको क्या क्या मतलब इट इज ऑफ नो रेलेवेंस टू एनीवन। आप क्या करते हो एंड व्हाट इज इट दैट आई कैन प्रोवाइड और आई कैन कंट्रीब्यूट टू व्हाटएवर यू आर डूइंग, दैट इज द आंसर दैट यू नीड टू प्रोवाइड एंड दैट इज द पॉइंट दैट यू नीड टू एड्रेस इन योर कम्युनिकेशन। सो ठीक है, मतलब आई एम टेलिंग द सेम थिंग ओवर एंड अगेन। सो come to it. So after undergrad, वही है आपके पास, you have limited choices. One is you either continue to be an RA full time for like 1 year, 2 years. The other concrete option is that you do GATE. You write GATE with seriousness. The interesting thing about GATE and the difference between GATE and let's say a master's from abroad is the fact that कि one GATE and जिनको नहीं पता, GATE is this exam graduate aptitude test in engineering या ऐसा कुछ है उसका नाम, जो हर साल होता है, which is used for entrance into for like masters and PhD admissions to the best colleges in India, graduate, basically graduate grad schools. So IISc, IIT वगैरह ये these are the colleges which accept a GATE score. Now, interesting thing about GATE and how it is different from the US system, a master's especially, is that one, आपका जो graduate coursework जो होगा, GATE में it is slightly more researchy. तो ये जो slightly more theoretical topics वगैरह, and it is one of the best in the world. मैं मतलब this is after having seen things at MIT and after having had friends at all these different schools. विदाउट डाउट आई कैन टेल यू कि आईएससी और आईआईटी, कुछ चुने आईआईटी में जो मतलब एमटेक के कोर्स वर्क जो मतलब सिखाते हैं, दैट रियली इज वर्ल्ड क्लास। कई ऐसे कोर्सेज हैं जो आपको उस क्वालिटी के का मतलब ना टीचिंग और रिगर आपको यहाँ पे भी नहीं मिलेगा। सो डोंट बी under the impression कि this is like a suboptimal kind of a thing, क्योंकि यूएस में कुछ मिल नहीं रहा तो मुझे इंडिया में करना है, दिस इज एक्सट्रीमली कॉम्पिटेटिव, एक्सट्रीमली हाई क्वालिटी। तो ठीक है, नाउ व्हाट इज आल्सो इंटरेस्टिंग अबाउट गेट एंड अबाउट लाइक अ मास्टर्स इन डूइंग इट एट लाइक लेट्स से एनआईटी या आईआईसी is कि you can also do research. You have a research वाला option, um, and you can actually pick up a research topic in your let's say final semester, and you can actually get exposed to doing high quality research क्योंकि most जरूरी नहीं है कि everyone, but most faculty at these good schools, good graduate schools are still active in their research. तो then you actually get to do good research, and एक बार आप उस system में घुस जाओगे ना, तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली आपको पता चल जाएगा कि कौन अच्छा है, कौन एकदम बिल्कुल हाई क्वालिटी अनकॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग स्टैंडर्ड है, क्या है वगैरह, वो आपको तुरंत पता चल जाएगा। यहाँ पे भी आपको डिपार्टमेंट में पता चल ही गया होगा अभी अंडरग्रेड में कि कौन ऐसे प्रोफेसर है जो बिल्कुल ही एकदम वो अपने एग्जाम क्वालिटी में पीछे नहीं हटेंगे अपने। जनरली उनके साथ अगर आपको अपनी बीटेक प्रोजेक्ट करनी है तो खूब मतलब रगड़ाई करनी पड़ेगी वगैरह वगैरह, ये ऑलरेडी आपको एक समझ आ गया होगा। इट्स द सेम थिंग, आपको मास्टर्स में भी वो पता चल जाएगा। सो लॉन्ग स्टोरी शॉर्ट, गेट इज लाइक अ वेरी गुड ऑप्शन, and hopefully, and the point that I really want to stress in all of this is don't apply for a PhD simply because you want to apply for a PhD. Apply to a PhD program or apply for a career in research having been informed of a specific area. तो ये नहीं कि आप आंख मीच के आप ये कह रहे हो कि अच्छा जी मैं मतलब एमटेक कर लिया, बीटेक कर लिया, अब एमटेक कर लिया, अब मैं नेक्स्ट मेरा गोल है पीएचडी करना है। नहीं, दैट इज अ वेरी स्टूपिड वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट थिंग्स। Try to figure out different, work with different research groups, work with different people, work on different topics, get exposed to as many things as possible so that finally you can pick something that you are interested in. This is like dating. I mean, when you date someone, आप ये नहीं कि मतलब you want to survey the market first. You want to figure out कि अच्छा who works, what. It is also a process of knowing yourself. ऐसा हो सकता है कि you may not even know that you're interested in subject X. So figure out subject X and then you try to learn and see, do some projects and see if you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, try to continue it further. It is perfectly fine कि आपने मास्टर्स में सब्जेक्ट एक्स में किया है पर आप पीएचडी किसी सब्जेक्ट वाई में करेंगे, नो प्रॉब्लम। But what people are really looking for is some maturity. कि when you say you are interested in subject X, when you say कि I'm interested in building a spaceship, that sounds very childish. Rather than saying I'm interested in the differential mechanics of tribology of falana, jo bhi ho, where it becomes very specific. Then I know you know what you're talking about. And that is the kind of evidence that I want to see, or most graduate schools want to see. So sense of maturity, sense of an understanding of what it is that interests you. Okay. So let's quickly go to the chat. Are there groups that allow people who have already graduated? Yes, yes, yes. So अरे भाई सब कुछ चाहिए मतलब think of this as like a win-win. Now ट्रिपल आईटी दिल्ली में खूब सारे ग्रुप्स है, आईटी दिल्ली में खूब सारे ग्रुप्स है. All these places have groups and all of them in fact want some commitment. All of them want कि एटलीस्ट 6 महीने कोई मेरे साथ काम करे, एटलीस्ट 1 साल कोई मेरे साथ काम करे. क्योंकि रिसर्च ऐसी कुत्ती चीज है जो मतलब आप 1 महीने में कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे. Research and acquiring knowledge are things which inherently take time. It will require you to spend a couple of months to understand पहले तो tools figure out करोगे, फिर आप problem figure out करोगे, फिर ये समझो कि लोगों ने क्या किया है, उसके कोड बेस में आप छेड़खानी करोगे. Then you will get an understanding कि चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे. And that takes 2-3 months. That's okay. And then you see कि whether you can improve and you can do something interesting, creative over and above it. So there are groups who accept. There is definitely मतलब वही है ना. So these questions you should assume the answer to all these is in your favor. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि ना हो. Everybody wants people to work on good things. But वही है. There's a supply problem, there's a demand problem, and there's an information asymmetry problem. जो बचा कुचा मतलब डिमांड है वो सप्लाई को नहीं पता तो उसमें इंफॉर्मेशन लीकेज है. सप्लाई को मतलब जनरल मोटिवेशन है नहीं तो सप्लाई क्वालिटी कम है. So it's a messed up situation, but you can get out of it, and people do get out of it. The one last thing I want to also talk about is, which I did talk about, which I briefly mentioned, is also how do you communicate with people. This also is very very important. मान लीजिए आपने कर लिया पूरा ये आपने फाइट मार लिया. I'll answer that question as well, TOEFL, IELTS वगैरह. ये सारे ये जो सवाल जो है हाउ इज टोफल रिक्वायर्ड वगैरह ये प्लीज लुक इट अप. आई मीन दीज आर पीसेस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन विच यू कैन लुक अप. सो दीज आर ऐसे खूब सारे आप आई एम प्रीटी श्योर यू आर कॉन्फिडेंट आई एम कॉन्फिडेंट इन योर एबिलिटी ऑफ looking information up. You can figure these details out for yourself. What is obvious वो मैं I will unlikely spend time talking to you about because I know you can go ahead and look up this kind of information. What I will probably be talking about which I have spoken about are the lesser known things which people don't usually talk about, which you get to learn through sort of a series of experiences. So let me go back. So ये सारे जो है समर इंटर्नशिप्स मैंने कह तो दिया कि अच्छा जी आप फिगर आउट कर लो कि कौन पब्लिश क्या कर रहा है, who is doing what, and then work your way backwards, try to figure out who in India is doing interesting things. At some point in your life, at some point in that stage, you will be required to reach out to these people, to be able to tell them ki, okay, this is what you're interested in, this is what you want to try out. So how do you reach out to them? What is the right way to reaching out to them? Please practice. Please write. मतलब practice how to write emails. अच्छे अच्छे links है which teach you how to write emails. Unfortunately, nobody teaches this, nobody learns this in a formal setting. But please इस पे ध्यान दीजिए because first impressions make a lot of difference. If I am a busy professor and मुझे एक घटिया से एक ईमेल आया है जो मतलब 1000 चीजें कह रहा है पर काम की चीज नहीं बात कर रहा, then I will just ignore it and move on. क्योंकि मेरे पास इतना टाइम में मतलब लाइफ में इतना फुर्सत नहीं है कि मैं एक एक को बैठ के मतलब सबको रिप्लाई करूंगा. ठीक है. So if you want to ensure कि someone responds to you and someone is actually taking you seriously, then put in the effort. Make sure कि they understand कि why they should take you seriously. And I just want to quickly talk about this one email. आते रहते हैं मुझे इस टाइप के emails, and कुछ emails मैंने अपने वो resources वाले पेज में भी अपलोड कर रखे हैं कि क्या email query था और क्या response आया. Now, what will be interesting is मैंने ये सब ज्ञान तो बांट दिया अभी, and that's pretty much what I had to convey. So why don't we go through this email together and you can tell me how you would have written this email or how you think you would have what you would have done differently. in reaching out to me. So this email is from someone who has actually been at like one of the top schools in India, and this was sometime 2-3 months ago. Hi Shashank, I am a research engineer, AI at some place. I am looking to apply for the PhD program. Everybody can see this email, right? The link, the page that I have put up right now. Just give me like a quick yes, yeah, something in the chat. Okay. So I'm reading out the actual email. Okay. Cool, cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, so I am looking to apply for the PhD program in ECS, which is Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at MIT in 2022. I am writing to you to inquire about my Alpha Lab. Alpha Lab, ये lab मेरे lab का नाम है जिसमें मैं काम करता हूँ. I have been conducting research on deep learning and its application. इसने मुझे अपने Google Scholar का लिंक इन्होंने भेजा है. Google Scholar ऐसी चीज है जो आपके पब्लिकेशंस को ऑटोमेटिकली लिस्ट करता है. So I have read several publications from your lab, and I think the research being carried out at the lab interests me enough to pursue a PhD. तो इन्होंने मतलब कुछ कुछ publications पढ़े and this person is now convinced कि they want to do a PhD. So great, that is great. I mean, it's a good first sign. I wanted to learn more about the lab and its members. Specifically, how often do members meet with the advisor? What are the expectations of the advisor? What should the profile of a potential candidate be? Please find my CV attached, and I'd be happy to answer any further questions you may have about my application. तो ये है इनका मतलब ईमेल जो इन्होंने मुझे भेजा. तो can somebody who has probably listened to me speak for the last whatever 1 hour tell me what you think you find problematic with this email, or how you think you could have if you were to write the same email? क्योंकि बात सिंपल सा है. This person wants to know more. I mean, it is very natural कि even I would have want to know more. They want to know more in terms of कि अच्छा जी मुझे लगता है कि मैं आपके ग्रुप के साथ फिट बैठ सकता हूँ. थोड़ा मुझे और डिटेल्स दीजिए कि क्या है एडवाइजर, कैसा है, क्या करती है, वगैरह वगैरह. एंड मुझे मतलब इस ग्रुप, बिकॉज आई लाइक दिस ग्रुप, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि यू गाइज आर डूइंग इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स. व्हाट शुड बी द प्रोफाइल सो दैट आई कैन ज्वाइन. तो ये सवाल पूछा है इन्होंने. तो एनी कमेंट्स, एनी थॉट्स ऑन लाइक हाउ you can unmute and मतलब बात कर सकते हो. I think now we can just.
सर फर्स्ट टाइम एडवाइजर वगैरह के बारे में नहीं सोचना चाहिए. फर्स्ट टाइम अपना ही इम्प्रेशन देना चाहिए कैसे.
फेयर इनफ. और एक और नमन ने लिखा है या श्योर निपुल.
Yeah, sir, I think he could be more descriptive. Like he mentioned the links and all this thing, but he didn't express his interest, like and his learnings, means little specific about the learnings and what he did. Then he could actually raise a good concern why he want to be the part of the group.
Correct, exactly. Fair enough. That's a very valid point. निपुण ने और नमन ने भी और राघव ने भी जो कहा है. I have read several publications from your lab, and I think I'm interested in. अरे भाई मुझे ज्यादा बताइए इसके बारे में. क्या आपने पढ़ा? Several publications बोलते रहे हो. कौन से publications पढ़े? Specific कुछ बताइए. What did you learn from it? कुछ उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए. क्योंकि this is not enough. क्योंकि ये statement कोई भी कह सकता है. अगर मैं ना भी पढ़ूं, तो then I can still write the statement. So what is, as rightly pointed out by many of you, what is unavailable in this information, in this email, is there is no sense for me to say कि इनकी क्या अंडरस्टैंडिंग है इस फील्ड के बारे में. डीप लर्निंग रिसर्च करते हो तो इनके मैंने मतलब लिंक देखा भी फाइनली. एंड इनके लिंक में मतलब कंप्यूटर विजन के बारे में कुछ एक दो पब्लिकेशंस हैं, एंड ये सारे पब्लिकेशंस आर वेरी पुअर क्वालिटी पब्लिकेशंस. अगेन गो बैक टू द पॉइंट दैट आई मेंशन्ड अबाउट पब्लिकेशंस. It's a poor quality publication. So this finally the conclusion that I get is ये जो email जो है, this person is copy pasting. This is a template email. They are copy pasting it and are sending it to everyone they are finding on the internet who they think are interesting. तो ग्रीटिंग्स फलाना फलाना ये सब कॉमन होगा. हाय शशांक के बदले में हाय XYZ और भेज दिया ये. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज मोस्ट लाइकली हैपनिंग, क्योंकि इसके बारे में कोई, मेरे बारे में कुछ स्पेसिफिक नहीं है। अरे भाई मेरा कोई इसमें, उनका जो रिसर्च, उन्होंने जो काम कर रखा है एंड मैंने जो अभी तक काम किया है, उसमें कोई इंटरसेक्शन है ही नहीं। एंड फिर आप कहते हो कि आपने मतलब आप ये पेपर्स पढ़े और आपको लगा कि मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग लगा है। इंटरेस्टिंग लगेगा, मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग हर कोई किसी को लगेगा, पर व्हाट इज योर कंट्रीब्यूशन गोइंग टू बी? इफ आई डिड हायर यू, व्हाट इज योर कंट्रीब्यूशन गोइंग टू बी? लाइकवाइज इसी टाइप के खूब सारे ईमेल्स आते रहते हैं, मतलब कम से कम एटलीस्ट 2-3 emails every month, and this is from the best universities in India. NIT, not only limited to NIT, and हर एक में मतलब यही फ्लेवर होता है। But to this person's credit, it is a small email, short, crisp, although it is to the point, although the point is wrong, it is to the point कि मतलब कोई there is no bullshitting around, कोई इसमें कोई मतलब हरी कथा राम कहानी मतलब ये सब नहीं है इसमें, मतलब प्रिसाइज है, पर प्रॉब्लम इज कि इट इज बियॉन्ड द पॉइंट। So I receive these kinds, and I receive 2-3 emails. Every faculty receives hundreds of such emails every month, every week. एंड उसमें मतलब हमेशा यही होता है कि भाई मेरे को इंटर्नशिप दे दो आपके अपने लैब में। क्यों भाई, क्यों कोई आपको इंटर्नशिप क्यों देगा? आपको अगर इतना मतलब आप, इफ यू आर नॉट विलिंग टू पुट इन द हार्ड वर्क of figuring out what it is that I work on, of trying to write a personalized email of what it is that I like, what is that I work on, how I think you will contribute. Why should I even take you seriously? Because you had all the time and all the effort to actually find out this information and write a meaningful email to me. But nahi, aapne kiya hi nahi. So why should I take you seriously? So this is the reality. So इसके बदले में what I should also probably put out is like an example of a good email saying कि मैंने आपका ये XYZ पेपर पढ़ा, आई रेड दिस पेपर ऑफ योर्स, एंड आई उसमें आपका कोड बेस, यू हैड गिवन मी अ लिंक, यू हैड पब्लिश्ड अ लिंक टू द कोड बेस, आई डाउनलोडेड द कोड बेस, आई tried a couple of changes, small changes, and these are the results that I see. Isn't this interesting that I see X instead of what you predicted in your paper? Now that is a great email, that is a fantastic email. मैं आपको लिख के दे सकता हूँ कि कोई भी हो, मतलब irrespective of who it may be, the busiest person on earth, faculty, busiest faculty person, they will still respond to that email because you have provided some concrete information of trying something out, doing something with your own initiative, figuring out, thinking about the result, and then saying कि इसमें कुछ तो मतलब गड़बड़ लग रहा है, do you think this is right? Yeah, or something of that sort. You have something thoughtful to say immediately, no matter how busy they are, because you have to remember सारे जो faculty जो बनते हैं eventually, they would have also gone through the same process. They understand what it takes to do research at an undergrad level. उनको भी पता है कि it is very difficult. And अगर बंदा मतलब अपने courses भी कर रहा है और ये भी कर रहा है, and if this person, this young man or woman is able to write me such a nice email with such a thoughtful ये कि experiment करके खुद से कुछ कुछ fight मार के मतलब किया है, I definitely want to encourage. I will want to like talk to you. I'll want to find out more about you. So there are people like this who do it, uh, and you can be one of them as well. So that's why be very careful when you write emails. I have provided more such examples on my webpage. Please go through it. यहाँ पे देखिए, यहाँ कुछ होगा email 1 2 3 4 देख लीजिए, मतलब this will help you probably get a stronger understanding. So that's essentially it. I think I'm way ahead of time. I think next time say I should just say 1.5 hours and keep this for like an hour and a half. But the summary is coursework is important. Please focus on your coursework. Grades are decently important. Try to do well in your undergrad education. Learn to communicate effectively. मतलब ये कि बस ये नहीं कि जो मुंह में आए आप बोल रहे हो, आप कंसाइज होना चाहिए, इफेक्टिव होना चाहिए, टू द पॉइंट होना चाहिए. लर्न टू कम्युनिकेट. कॉलेज नेम इतना ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. I'll talk about LOR as well. तो कॉलेज नेम जो है, इट इज नॉट दैट ग्रेट. आई मीन आपको आके मतलब इफ यू वांट टू डू अ PhD at MIT or Berkeley is not as important as you figuring out what it is you want to do, what it is you want to work on. So first figure out some area that you are actually interested in and do some concrete things in it, and उसके बाद automatically you'll figure out कि who are the interesting people in that community. चाहे वो MIT से हो या SIT से हो, फर्क नहीं पड़ता. If there are good people doing good quality research, it doesn't matter which college you will go to and work with. But you should work with those kinds of people because people are more important. 5 साल आप कॉलेज के साथ PhD नहीं करोगे, 5 साल आप अपने एडवाइजर के साथ आप PhD करोगे. तो दैट इज मच मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. एंड ये सब फिगर आउट करते करते यू ट्राई डूइंग ऑल दीज इन पैरेलल. मतलब आपको फिगर आउट भी करना है कि कौन क्या कर रहा है, आपको इम्प्रूव भी करना है, आपको स्किल लर्न ऑल दीज सॉफ्टवेयर, लर्न ऑल दीज टूल्स टेक्नोलॉजीज वगैरह. सब कुछ इन पैरेलल चलेगा. एंड मेहनत है, मतलब बिकॉज देर इज ओनली फाइनाइट टाइम एंड लाइक ऑल दीज आर न्यू थिंग्स फॉर यू. It will take some time, which is fine. And lastly, don't focus just on gyan. Everybody has gyan. It is immaterial if you don't apply that gyan and if you don't show evidence for gyan. कि ज्ञान प्राप्ति करके क्या किया आपने, that is much more important than just ज्ञान प्राप्ति. So this LOR business is exactly this. तो LOR is letter of recommendation, SOP is your statement of purpose. ये दो चीजें चाहिए होते हैं जब आप अप्लाई करते हो आप टू एनी यूनिवर्सिटी आउटसाइड ऑफ इंडिया. ये LOR का जो बिजनेस जो है, इट इज वेरी ट्रिकी. सो US यूनिवर्सिटीज में LOR दे आर वेरी हाईली वैल्यूड बिकॉज लेट्स से मैं आई एम डूइंग रिसर्च इन एरिया X and I know another professor, मान लीजिए NIT कुरुक्षेत्र में, who is doing research in the same area X. And हम दोनों मतलब we publish in the same top quality conferences and उसके basis पे we got to know each other. Now, because I know what is the kind of hard work and what is the kind of quality, like an eye for quality it requires to publish in these top venues, I know I can trust the judgment of this other professor जो कुरुक्षेत्र में बैठे हैं. Because we have this shared experience of publishing in these top venues, I will tend to believe them. If they say कि ये मेरा एक स्टूडेंट है जो काफी सिंसियर है, काफी बढ़िया है, ही इज इंटेलिजेंट, यू शुड प्रॉब्ली टॉक टू हिम, आई विल टेंड टू ट्रस्ट दैट. सो ये ट्रस्ट नेटवर्क जो है बहुत स्ट्रांग है यूएस में. तो MIT का कोई प्रोफेसर अगर लेटर लिखे कि किसी स्टूडेंट के लिए लेटर लिखे कि दिस इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट टॉप 5% स्टूडेंट्स दैट आई हैव सीन इन द लास्ट 10 years, तो उसका जो दोस्त होगा अंडरग्रेड स्कूल क्लासमेट जो अभी बर्कली में प्रोफेसर होगा, वो कहेगा कि अरे यार ये इसके साथ इसने काम कर रखा है और ये कह रहा है कि ये तो बहुत ही मतलब तेज लड़का है, तेज लड़की है, ले आओ इसको, ये तो मतलब वाकई में अच्छा होगा ये. सो दैट इज हाउ द LOR सिस्टम वर्क्स. The point being, you need to make sure कि there are the faculty that you're working with, one does good quality research and is decently well known in the community. Then those LORs have some meaning. अगर आपके मतलब किसी एडॉक ने आपका LOR लिखा तो इट इज यूजलेस. क्यों? क्योंकि एडॉक कौन है, कौन ये LOR लिखने वाले, इन्होंने क्या ऐसा क्या कर रखा है, what research have they done? They haven't done anything, right? So how are they qualified to talk about a candidate, a student, and talk about their research ability? Just doesn't make sense. So that's why you have to be very careful when you're looking for these kinds of experiences. Keep all these things in mind when you're looking for opportunities and RA opportunities. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I don't want to go on and on. So I'll be around for the next 15-20 minutes. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. I'm more than happy to have a conversation. तो feel free to spread this along. आपके दोस्त होंगे जो रिसर्च में इंटरेस्टेड होंगे दूसरे कॉलेजेस में, प्लीज टेल देम एज वेल. तो मैं चाहता यही हूँ कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग इसके बारे में समझे, पता तो चले लोगों को कि होता क्या है, so that you can do this for yourself as well. And आपको इतना ना झकना पड़े जितना मुझे झकना पड़े. So yeah, that's essentially it. Thank you for listening to me and attending this seminar जो भी था on a Sunday evening. So yeah, thanks.
सर ऐसा होता है अब जैसे कि कोविड चल रहा था तो एक दो लैब में मैंने ट्राई किया था इंडिया में, तो वो मना कर रहे थे ड्यू टू कोविड. और जो फॉरेन में है सर उनके लिए रिकमेंडेशन लेटर चाहिए. रिकमेंडेशन लेटर के लिए सर सर कोई मीनिंगफुल वर्क चाहिए. वो बन नहीं रही थी सेटिंग सी. कैसे करें सर? मीनिंगफुल वर्क भी नहीं आता समझ में, मतलब क्या करें ऐसा कुछ सॉलिड सा.
fair enough. मतलब valid concern है. uh, can you repeat the ad hoc thing? अच्छा मैं बताता हूँ. तो कोविड, हाँ, कोविड हैज मेड थिंग्स कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. आप लैब वैसे ज्वाइन कर नहीं पा रहे हो. तो मीनिंगफुल वर्क यही होगा जो मैंने आपको वो जो दूसरा टाइप का सोल्यूशन जो बताया कि ये फिगर आउट कर लीजिए कि कौन कौन है कौन, मतलब एटलीस्ट फिगर आउट 10-15. यू हैव टू बी एक्सट्रीमली ऑर्गेनाइज्ड अबाउट दिस इन्फॉर्मेशन. एक एक्सेल स्प्रेडशीट खोल लीजिए एंड उस पर आप मतलब डिटेल्स लिखना शुरू कीजिए एंड उस पर ये फिगर आउट कर लीजिए कि कौन है ऐसे 20-30 लोग जिनके साथ मैं आइडियली काम करना चाहूंगा बोथ इन इंडिया एंड अब्रॉड. एंड मान लीजिए आपने ये फिगर आउट कर लिया, 10 लोग 15 लोग एटलीस्ट. देन हर एक के लैब पेज पे जाइए, पब्लिकेशंस देखिए, वेबसाइट देखिए, वगैरह वगैरह देखिए एंड देखिए कि क्या प्रोजेक्ट्स चल रहे हैं. फिर फिगर आउट कीजिए कि आइडियली अगर आप इंटरेस्टेड रहना चाहते अगर आप आइडियली इंटरेस्टेड रहना चाहते हो, मतलब इंटरेस्टेड हो, तो विच project would you want to work on? So ideally, if among those projects that you have found out, which project do you want to work on? And then find out what resources already exist. Does there exist a paper? Does there exist a code base? Is there some software related to it? And start working on it. मतलब और कोई तरीका नहीं है. मतलब वही ना, मतलब think of these as extreme circumstances where you're being pushed to a corner. Be creative, be resourceful in trying to get out of it. And the only thing that will really matter is evidence. Just keep working. मतलब it's okay अगर कोई नहीं देख रहा, put your head down and keep working, that's fine. अगर आपको लगता है कि this work will not be appreciated by anyone, that's okay. Try it out. मतलब that is the best you can do, right? Because in your own admission, you've tried to figure out other venues, and वो हो नहीं रहा. And I will be very surprised if you don't find any remote sort of work either. RA, remote RA work, वो भी possible होगा. It all comes down to ask yourself truly कि how much effort you really put. कि होगा, you think it could be very possible that you spend probably 10 hours on it. Maybe 10 hours is not enough. Maybe 20 hours is required. Maybe 50 hours is required. Spend time. Don't convince yourself कि there are no more choices or no more options. I am pretty sure. This is like knowing what I've known and seeing what I've seen. You will find some opportunity or the other. Just keep sincerely trying, and something or the other will happen for the better. So that's the only thing I can say. This is too generic an answer, I know, but fight marte rahiye. All the very best. And yeah, if there is some specific thing that you think I can provide in terms of like probably connecting you to the right people or something, again, be very specific. If you think I can contribute, let me know. And feel free to reach out over email. Okay, so chat में मतलब
सर
कुछ या
सर आपने
बताइए.
आपके गैप ईयर में आपने क्या वर्क किया था सर? आपने दिखाया था कि आपने
तो
4 ईयर 5 ईयर का गैप था.
तो वो गैप माने गैप नहीं था मुझे वैसे. मैं आई वाज अर्निंग अ सैलरी एंड दिस वाज लाइक फुल फ्लेज जॉब. And this was yet until 2016 I was working on मिल जाएगा आपको मेरे प्रोफाइल पे मिल जाएगा. तो इन जनरल आई वाज वर्किंग ऑन some problems in machine learning and programming languages, जो कि आज के डेट पे भी मैं उसी टॉपिक पे मैं अभी भी काम कर रहा हूँ. And that was the basis for my PhD application as well. Because I had worked for 5-6 years, I knew the community well, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. That made for a much stronger statement saying कि these are the 2-3 problems that I want to work on in my PhD. ये मैंने लिखा था अपने SOP में. So yeah, you can find out more information on my website. So there are 2-3 more two questions. Can you answer the question on 34? ठीक है जी. Question number 1. Now that you have heard me say all this, what do you think the answer is? So feel free to contribute. If anyone else has an opinion, feel free to contribute. Ideally, both of them matter. So ideally, keep a high GPA. But if you don't have a high GPA, but make sure research experience definitely matters. So even if you have like a very strong research experience in terms of like some evidence for publication, वगैरह, of course it will be very highly valued, but that is not enough. So that alone is not sufficient. So don't think of these as like sufficient conditions. They're all necessary conditions. So of course, between the two of them, personally, I would definitely prefer like evidence for publication because getting a good publication is not easy. आपको काफी मेहनत करना पड़ता है. So I will definitely look for these kinds of signals. Because GPA I know कुरुक्षेत्र में GPA कैसे मिलता है, तो so I know, but जरूरी नहीं है कि बाकी people में know. As an undergrad, publishing journals like ये जो भी था, I want to submit my work to, but my professor does not have funding. अरे भाई submission के लिए कोई registration की जरूरत नहीं है ना, submit कर तो लीजिए. You will know, you don't need to pay any money to submit your work to a conference and be reviewed by someone. So all that is free. You just need to create an account and submit करना होता है एक PDF. And if it is high quality work, तब वो accept होगा. And अगर accept हुआ तब आपको सोचना होगा कि पैसे मतलब उसके लिए registration के लिए क्या करना है. अगर आपने submit कर लिया है and आपको आपका prof पैसे नहीं दे रहा, write to me, I will pay you. Or I will figure out like 10 different ways to get you to visit this conference. These are all secondary problems. This is equivalent to that email where the person was saying ki, how is your advisor, वगैरह वगैरह. Don't worry about these things. Cross this bridge when you get there. अभी से इनके बारे में सोच के मतलब there is no point. And I don't know how good these journals are. Most likely, if I don't have any other information, I will probably think these are bad journals. Don't spend your time publishing in these kinds of venues. If आपको पता है कि the idea was like okay and कोई कुछ serious feedback मिला नहीं, तब भी लोगों ने मतलब publish करने को मतलब uh, generally yeah, people were okay publishing it. It's useless. Don't worry about it. And if you're able to do this, if you're able to get into the conference, but आपको registration के लिए पैसे नहीं है वगैरह, talk to me. ठीक है? How US professors evaluate triple I journey, at least in impact factor of 5, and पता नहीं यार मुझे, I don't know specifics of this, but if it is not the very best in your field, then very likely कि it is not looked at favorably. Okay, there are some other questions. Let me quickly answer them. There's another message. For an RA, I look for projects majorly. Majority of them are in CS background. You talked about through Gate are there for EE core. I'm looking for particularly for renewable energy. होगा यार. मतलब I'm very surprised. I mean, there is no chance that you will not find. I mean, off the top of my head, I know like a great set of faculty in IIT Delhi who are doing good things in renewable energy. You probably have to realize by this point that it is unlikely that you will be able to do research in science and in engineering without knowing how to do programming, without having all these extra skills. आज के डेट पे writing program like being able to program is not something that is expected only of CS graduates. सबको आना चाहिए ये. If you're spending your 4 years as an undergrad at a place like NIT Kurukshetra, and if you're graduating without having done any programming, then that is a waste of your time. You need to learn math, you need to learn programming. All these are your languages to express ideas. Because सारे systems अभी मतलब software systems है. Whether आप मतलब particle physics में कुछ कर रहे हो या फिर quantum mechanics में कुछ कर रहे हो वगैरह किसी में भी कर रहे हो, आपको you should be able to program. Unless of course आप बिल्कुल theoretical proofs लिख रहे हो. आप जो मैथ प्रूफ्स जो होते हैं वो आपको बस पेपर पेन में लिखना होता है, एंड वो भी आजकल मैकेनाइज्ड हो रहे हैं, उसमें भी प्रोग्राम्स आ रहे हैं. तो यू प्लीज टेक दिस फॉर ग्रांटेड कि CS and programming skills are required for almost any vertical that you pick. Now go figure out कि who are these people and what are those skills that you need to learn, and start learning those skills, because that is what is actually going to make you employable in this community. All right. जनरल क्वेश्चन, आप अपनी लाइफ को एंजॉय कैसे करते हो? नॉर्मल चीजें करके, मतलब बाकी लोग कैसे एंजॉय करते हैं, कोई बुक्स पढ़ लिया, कुछ टीवी पे कुछ देख लिया वगैरह वगैरह. तो एंजॉय करने के कोई there's no dearth of resources to enjoy life. I think you can do a lot of things to enjoy life. Scope of research in industry in gap year, scope of research in industry. तो वही है, I mean, it's a industrial research is slightly tricky in the sense that अगर उसमें academic publishing नहीं हो रहा हो, तो फिर अगेन वो एविडेंस वाली बात पे चली जाती है कि मतलब आपने कर रखा होगा रिसर्च कहीं किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में बैठ के, नाम के वास्ते वो हो सकता है वो रिसर्च हो, बट show me some evidence that it is some research of some good quality. And उसके लिए unfortunately you need to publish at these places so that people know कि अच्छा ये बंदा कुछ कर रहा है, ये इंटरेस्टिंग कर रहा है. उसके बिना things can become tricky. तो I don't know, मतलब वो केस टू केस डिपेंड करेगा, but I think that's the general rule of thumb. And in general, read a lot. I think now is the time that you really need to broaden your understanding of how the world works. इस स्लाइड डेक में मैंने ऐसे किताबों के नाम भी लिखे which I had found very informative and useful when I was an undergrad. So try to improve your knowledge. Just generally understand कि दुनिया, how does the world work, and create some purpose and meaning. Because at the end of the day, वही जो सवाल पूछ रहे थे कि how do you enjoy yourself? Finally, you we all have like an opportunity to enjoy yourself, and सबको finally मरना है. There's no doubt about it. I mean, my time on this planet is limited. Now it is totally up to me कि do I want to do something interesting and useful, or do I just want to let time pass by and मौज मस्ती कर लिया and कुछ चिल मार के मतलब निकल गया. अगर कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग है करने लायक तो क्यों नहीं किया जाए. And essentially that is my philosophy about this. कि I find certain things interesting. I find a lot of topics interesting, and I think interesting science can be done, interesting work can be done, and I believe a culture for that kind of excellence can be brought back to India as well. Yeah, so that is the hope, and hopefully I'll work in that direction, and hopefully I'll have the energy to work in that direction for the years to come. All right. Could you please throw some light on how we can take best use of working with professors? अरे बता तो दिया है, पूरा सेशन तो यही था. So try to like go back to the points that I mentioned. Nothing really changes. Try to be, try to take the initiative. कोई don't expect your professors to spoon feed you topics and वो मतलब go back to slide 2 या slide 1 या जो भी था वो. कहाँ गया वो, एक मिनट. इसमें ये जो था आई विल फिगर इट आउट, ये वाला एटीट्यूड जो है ये वहां पे भी अप्लाई होता है. फिगर आउट कर लीजिए कि what is a good quality project, what input do you think this professor will be able to provide me. उन्होंने अगर कुछ बोरिंग सा कुछ टॉपिक दिया है काम करने को, रेजिस्ट, पुश बैक, कहिए कि इससे कुछ होना है नहीं, ये कोई स्टूपिड सा टॉपिक है, आई डोंट सी एनी मीनिंग इन इट. एंड खुद फिर एफर्ट मारिए ये फिगर आउट करने के लिए कि व्हाट इज इट दैट यू वांट टू वर्क ऑन. तो मेहनत है, कीजिए. लेट मी नो, कीप मी पोस्टेड. How long is the duration of the PhD in MIT? How is the duration decided, and what are the roles during PhD? Figure out कर लीजिए ये, मतलब you'll find enough answers online to figure this out. Specifically, it's usually 5 to 6 years is what a PhD takes. Uh, and how is the duration decided? I mean, you just need to do good work, and when people have decided that you've done good work, you can leave and you can graduate. So that's essentially it. Cool. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute and ask me if you don't want to type. I'll be here for another 2-3 minutes. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully this was of some use, even if it benefits 1 or 2% of the students out there. I think I'll be quite happy with that. Yeah, let me know अगर और कोई सवाल, if you have any other questions. All right. Where can I find your research paper? मेरे website यार, सब कुछ मेरे website पे है. So, I mean, in this day and age, you should expect everyone to have a website. You should also maintain a website of yourself. That is how people will get to know, instead of sending all these attachments कि ये मेरा CV पढ़िए, ये मेरा काम ये पढ़िए वो पढ़िए. Put it all on a web page. Everybody can access websites. and it will force you to organize information intelligently. तो मेक अ वेब पेज फॉर योरसेल्फ इरेस्पेक्टिव, आपको जरूरी नहीं है कि सीएस में हो तभी आपको वेबसाइट बनाने हैं, कोई भी ब्रांच हो, जस्ट टू शो हु यू आर, व्हाट यू हैव डन, क्या किया आपने काम, कौन से कोर्सेस लिए, क्या आपने सीखा, क्या पढ़ा, कौन से असाइनमेंट्स आपने किए, सब कुछ आप अपने वेबसाइट पे लगा सकते हो. एंड दिस विल जस्ट गिव मी मोर इन्फॉर्मेशन, दिस विल जस्ट गिव एनीवन मोर इन्फॉर्मेशन कि हाउ सीरियस यू आर. एंड दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट क्योंकि 90% 90-95% लोग एविडेंस बेस्ड इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं प्रिपेयर करते. सब लोग हवा में बातें करते हैं कि हाँ, आई एम गुड एट एक्स, आई एम गुड एट वाई, मैंने फलाना किया है, मैंने फलाना वो किया है. गिव मी सम एविडेंस, शो मी एविडेंस. वेबसाइट पे शो मी things that you have done and list it on your website. So these are all like, yeah, general tips to succeed as an undergrad from a good institute. And yeah, hopefully you will learn these skills and hopefully I'll see some of you at MIT. Chalo, with that, I'll probably sign out. If there's anything else, feel free to write me an email. When you write me an email, just keep in mind of all the things that I told you about. Make it concise. And all the very best. I sincerely hope you find meaning in what you're doing and figure out things for yourself. It's going to be hard. It's going to be frustrating. Stick with it. कुछ ना कुछ तो interesting हो ही जाएगा. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nipun,